What's up, y'all, and welcome back to the Living Chosen podcast. It has been a while, I know, but the break has been well worth it. I have been living a lot of life since we last chatted. I finally crossed the finish line of a long awaited master's degree, and my last requirement for completion was an overseas trip to South America. It was my first ever trip to South America, and it felt like a scene straight out of the Lizzie McGuire movie because it quite literally was what dreams were made of. I was in Quito, Ecuador, and then flew across the waters to the Galapagos Islands, where I stayed in San Cristobal for a few weeks. In total, I took 8 flights, stayed in 4 different hotels, and managed to exist in 3 different time zones. Because of all of that movement and all the things that we had to do while we were there, the time both on the front end and the back end of that trip in the preparation and recovery time was really important and was definitely necessary. And so I took the necessary space to reground myself into my life routines before coming back into the world of content creation. In the time I was away, there were quite a few things I pondered in my heart and mind that I think is really healthy to share in a podcast space. So, for this episode, I'm going to be talking about some lessons I learned from my travels and a few things that the Lord has been working with me on. And along the way, as you're listening, maybe, just maybe, it will bless you too. All right, so let's get started. I guess I can call this episode Lessons from High Altitudes because I really did spend so much time on planes over the past few months that I really had an enormous time to think, to ponder, to pray, to consider, to reflect, all of the things. And just an enormous time of reflection. And then when I landed in Quito, in Ecuador, I landed into the second highest city in the world. And I lived a life of high altitudes for the couple weeks that I was there. And that's not the same as being at sea level. You see, life at high altitudes, when you're accustomed to being at sea level, brings a lot of problems with your oxygen and your ability to breathe seamlessly. You get so high up that it almost feels like you're choking or that the breaths that you are taking aren't enough to catch the air. The air at 10,000 feet or 10,000 plus feet actually is just different. And so before the trip, I thought that sitting in an oxygen tank, or what I learned was a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. I saw it on Instagram. I saw it on like all of these different feeds. I was like, oh, I'll try this. This will help me get my oxygen levels once I got on the grounds. What I didn't realize was that in order for that to have any real impact on my body, I would have needed to do it multiple times over a period of time. So I was just hoping that the altitude wouldn't be too bad. And when I got there, for the most part, it wasn't. It was relatively okay. But of course, the normal symptoms of altitude sickness presented itself: nausea, headaches, etc., etc. But it was bearable. Okay, it was bearable. In the midst of it, I learned something about what it takes to make an upward climb and to do so without losing your mind or just being overly hard on your body. And the truth is, you can't do it clumsily. You cannot do it haphazardly, and you certainly cannot do it spontaneously. I mean, well, you can, but it will hurt more. So you really shouldn't. I was able to power through this and I just adjusted, but it was in the moments where I had to put pressure and a demand was placed on my body in unfamiliar conditions that I was personally reminded of my lack of preparation and the different conditions that I was in. Those circumstances in particular were anytime I was hiking. We were in Ecuador, so we hiked a lot on this trip. I mean, we averaged about 4 to 5 miles per day of walking, but even more so when we spent time on the mountains, hiking was a part of everything that we did. Because Ecuador is full of the beauty of the Andes Mountains. And so, how can you not explore it? Domestically at home, I have always loved to hike. It is one of my favorite pastimes, especially at the Shenandoah Mountains. But this is in Virginia, and I was nowhere near sea level. So I had to realize where I was at and wait for it, give myself grace. I know. That sounds like I'm cursing, Because so often as Christian women, there are unspoken and even sometimes very outwardly spoken expectations that because we have the answer, which is Jesus, that you won't struggle or even wrestle. But I like to say it like this: I have the answer. His name is Jesus. That's where my faith lies. And life also has a way of presenting trigonometry level equations that require a lot of problem solving to get to that answer. It's a messy process to arrive at the answer. And in a foreign land at the highest peak, I had to be honest with myself about what I needed and what I could and couldn't do. Did I need a day of rest? If during the process of cultural adaptation, which we all go through when we're traveling, am I in the homesickness phase? Did I need to call someone from home or get moral support or a sense of comfort from someone familiar? The main question is, what do I need to not be derailed by inconveniences and the pressures of the journey? And how can I get those needs met? Well, this was a story about traveling. But right now, if you're listening to this podcast, you're traveling through the canal of destiny and navigating a relationship with God that requires you to enter into unfamiliar territories and climb higher heights into spaces and places that feel impossible to withstand. But if there's anything from this parabolic story I am sharing right now about what I experienced in the natural that can reflect upon what you are experiencing in the spirit, I want you to hold tightly to these three things. And when I mean hold tightly to them, I mean find a way to apply them in your day-to-day life. Number one, inhale and exhale deeply and remind your brain and body that it's safe in the will of God, even when His will is triggering. It may be triggering at first, but I promise you, you can thrive in God. You can do more than simply survive in God. You can thrive beyond enduring pain points of the call and pressure points of an assignment. God did not save you for what you can do for Him. He saved you for who you are in Him. And we can rest in that. Number two is prepare. Not just for tomorrow and not just next week, but do what I didn't do and start your preparation for a big journey a lot earlier. Cast your vision just a little further this time. Trust me, trust me, trust me. You are going to live to see what He said, one way or the other. I know this because the word declares that God watches over His word to perform it. So even when we think the word is delayed and things aren't happening the way that we would like, His eye is still on the sparrow, and He's not a God who sleeps or slumbers. He is watching over that word, and you're going to live to see it happen. So hope again and begin designing your life to house it as if you know He's going to make sure that you receive it. And lastly and finally, again, give yourself grace. Beating yourself up is not an act of virtuism. You are not more virtuous or more humble because you beat yourself up. It's not a sign of humility. It's actually a sign of hatred, self-hatred, that is. It is okay if in the process of purification and maturity, things get a little ugly. That's fine. It's okay if in the process of sanctification, things get a little messy. It's okay if in the process of becoming, stuff starts to unravel and you might not know your lefts from your rights, but trust me in this, woman of God, you're still the woman for the job. You're still the one He wants for the job, and you're still chosen beyond your wildest dreams. That's all I have for today. It's just a quick reminder that this is a new territory for you, but it's a territory that He gave you hinds feet to navigate. So don't quit before it gets good, because it's going to get good. Until next time, I want you guys to stay in your faith, stay in your prayer closet, stay in your posture, and don't leave it for anybody, for anything, because nothing is better than being in the center of His will. I will see you next time.